Hello everyone, MI's Brendan Quinn here alongside Kyle Austin following a Michigan win and a Michigan State loss in the Big Ten tournament. Kyle, let's start with Michigan State. You covered that game for us. It seemed like a storyline that I thought might be ending at the end of the regular season. When against Wisconsin, I believe it was, like every freshman on the roster for Michigan State played over 30 minutes, looked great. It looked like the team people envisioned in November. Kind of came to fruition, and lo and behold, coming to Washington, it's the same old, same old.
Yeah, it's the same thing we've been talking about. We've been asking the same questions, and frankly, getting a lot of the same answers. I mean, Cash Winston played 12 minutes today. That's his lowest since mid-January. Second lowest season. Did not score for the first time since the Arizona game. So one of his worst outings of the year. And Tom Izzo said it's just not there defensively. He's making too many mistakes. He says some of them you see not closing out on some three-pointers. Some of them you don't see, maybe some subtle stuff, not knowing the scouting report. But either way, he feels like it's enough to put Tum Tum Nairn in at the end of games for his defense, despite the lack of offense. And we saw today, Michigan State just couldn't get the buckets they needed down the stretch with Tum Tum Nairn in there. So it's a decision that he's made several times, and he's obviously standing by. But I think it's something that's probably still aggravating some fan base.
I mean, I think it's bizarre. Yeah. I think it's bizarre because the guys you're talking about, Kenny Goins and Tum Tum Nairn, they play better defense. They undoubtedly play better defense. They don't play that good a defense.
No.
You know, I don't think that they don't not give up as much as they take away from having those guys on the bench, if that makes any sense. But like the math doesn't add up, essentially.
No, the gap in offense to me is as bigger than the gap in defense, and
much more clear.
I mean, Nick Ward played 20 minutes. That's been about his average. But basically, 6 minutes left, you're in a 1-point game. You need buckets going down the stretch.
Yeah.
And Tum Tum Nairn did a great job on Nate Mason today, but I think you reach a point in the game where you say, we need to make a comeback here. We need to put this game out. We need a point guard who is a significant scoring threat. And they went the other way. They went with Tum Tum Nairn for his defense, and I think they ended 2 of 6 from the field, and that's just not going to get it done at the end of a close game.
I mean, at one point down the stretch, Miles Bridges was on the bench.
Right.
And you're sitting there, I don't know. Where do you think this group goes from here? Obviously, I'm thinking they're probably going to be around a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think that's where Lenardi has them. That sounds about right to me. I ask you where you think you're going to go under the framework of yesterday, this conversation. I said, oh, they look like an NCAA tournament team for the first time in a while against Penn State, and today they did not.
Well, I mean, they're not a team that's had any consistency all year. We can't see them string together 2 or 3 good games, so it's hard for me to say. I mean, we talked about them going on a run yesterday. This is why it's hard to see them going on a run, because I can't think of a 3-4 game stretch where they really played strong throughout this whole year. So, you know, they play like they did against Penn State. I think they could beat an okay team. But, you know, you have to think that there's a good chance they'll come out 2 days later and do like they did today, and they're not going to beat a whole lot of NCAA tournament teams playing like they did today. I thought they were, beyond the freshmen, I thought they were kind of lethargic and slow, and they needed somebody besides Miles Bridges and Nick Ward to score, and nobody else scored more than 6. You know, they need Joshua Langford, they need Alvin Ellis, Matt McQuaid. They need one of those guys to do something, and none of them did anything today, and that's... Those two, the 2 freshmen are great players, but you're not going to beat good teams.
Right. I think the lack of consistency mirrors the lack of consistency in the rotation, and none of it's a coincidence. So that kind of leaves things there for Michigan State. Michigan, meanwhile, moving on. That was a game, it was like duct tape and pipe cleaners to get through that thing. It was really odd that it felt like Michigan from early January just beat Purdue somehow, because Derek Walton didn't play that well. Mo Wagner didn't play well at all, the little that he did play. DJ Wilson got hot. Zach Irvin made a couple buckets late, and they pulled out this win that was completely ridiculous, and nothing made sense. They made 6 3-pointers and beat Purdue, which doesn't make any sense. They out-rebounded Purdue, which doesn't make any sense. They had 6 assists. I've never seen a Michigan team with 6 assists. I mean, the bread and butter is the motion of the offense.
If you would have shown me everything on that box score except the final score, I would have thought Purdue won by 25. But somehow they did it. Zach Irvin sounds like he, pretty fiery afterwards.
Yeah.
People were pretty excited for him to be able to kind of be that go-to guy at the end and really kind of live up to that finally.
If the play was right in front of me, at the end of regulation, Zach Irvin's dribble along, ball's in his left hand, and when the ball's in his left hand, you know he's getting ready to pull the trigger. And he has pulled the trigger in that situation many, many times. Most recently at Northwestern in a shot that everyone was highly critical of, mostly correctly. And he paused for a moment, he saw an angle, he went off the bounce, he went down the left side of the lane and finished at the rim in a play that, like, I'm sure John Beeline, among many other people, said, well, where has that been for a long time? And then he did it twice more in overtime. And you're right, I think it's a really good story in terms of there was some poetic justice in the way that game ended, given how Zach Irvin's career has gone. And, a guy who played right after back surgery, carried them on his back and all that, all those cliches and good stuff.
So moving on, you're covering a team playing Minnesota.
Yeah.
Michigan State will wait till Selection Sunday. First time in 4 years, I think they haven't been playing here on Selection Sunday. 19 wins. I mean, we can have this conversation. I think that there's no reason for them to sweat. They didn't seem like a nervous team. I think they're going to be around a 10. But Michigan, could kind of take some momentum.
Trending in the right direction.
They got a manageable matchup for tomorrow to go to the championship game.
This was another significant win on the resume. They look better and better. They've got all these options, all these pieces. Like tomorrow, Mo Wagner could be the guy that win the game for them. Derek Walton could return to being the best point guard in the Big Ten. There's a lot of good stuff happening for this group, and a win over Minnesota would avenge a road loss. It would give them another top 50 RPI win. I'm assuming Minnesota's in the top 50 RPI. I think that you're talking about Michigan climbing into a 7 seed position. Even if they lose tomorrow, I think it's a wash pretty much what happens in tomorrow. They can only
not going to hurt you.
Put it this way, you can only help yourself on the seeding. I don't see them sliding back from wherever the committee would have them on the seed list as of right now. And do they win tomorrow? I didn't think Minnesota looked that great today, and they lose at Keene Springs. They lost one of their best shooters, and Nate Mason had an off day. So, that's not a good combination going into a game with Michigan.
All right, well, that'll do it from Washington, D.C. here. For Brendan Quinn, Kyle Austin, check with MLive.com.